Thank you. I don't want to speak for both of us, but I think we're both pretty hyped to be here. Thank you so much, Colby. Thank you to this beautiful space, and also extreme gratitude to the other incredible performers tonight. Just feeling so inspired, and yeah, really, really grateful to share this space with you all and all of the audience members. It's a true honor and privilege. So tonight we're going to share a WIP, little work in progress for you. It's called A Close Reading with Liz and Ellen. And basically in a moment, I'm just going to read a poem to you and just like a little request. You can do this or not, but I would love it if you would we could all just imagine that the poem was written by Gaelic monks, something like that. Thank you. All right, so, thank you. Yes. All right, I'm going to try not to trip on anything. Okay, so this is the poem. Is the river the bridge over that river, or is the river the blade? Or is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous way? Or is the beauty the blade to the bridge, to the place, to that ever-restricting strait? So, in a minute we are going to discuss this poem further in order to explore an idea that I learned from this book called When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut. I don't know if that's how you say his last name, but he's an amazing writer. He writes something like every mathematical equation or structure of symbols represents some deeper mystical information. So in reading and discussing, I want to explore the correlation between the poem as a set of symbols and then the deeper esoteric apparatus of meaning that they gesture to. So I'm going to do this by following Labatut's suggestion that we embark upon total abstraction of the symbols until they become meaningless, and then perhaps we can experience together the nature of the poem's deeper content. I don't know if it's even a good idea to try to apprehend the deeper esoteric meaning beyond the symbols, and we're just going to do it today. So just so you know, it's a couple of content warnings for death, interaction with the dead, self-mutilation. Please do not hesitate to leave, take space, whatever you want at any time. This is all just a total no-pressure invitation for some things to ponder. All right, so this is now the beginning of the performance in which I'm going to read the poem and then aggressively abstract it in hopes of encountering where that river, or is the river the blade? Or is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous way? Or is the beauty the blade to the bridge, to the place, to that ever-restricting strait? Let me just read it one more time. Or that river, or is the river the blade? A couple of possible rivers come to mind here. The first and most obvious river is the Woonasquatucket River in Providence, which is like itself sort of this sleek black snake, white crested and lunging. So maybe the river is a snake or across the river's tortuous way. I also think of the Columbia River in its significant golden and pink chasm, which seems thirsty. So maybe the river is a thirsty snake, like the river the blade, or the Flathead River, which is a soft, sloping green cradle, a cradling snake of the bridge to the place, to that ever-restricting. The mountain, on the other hand, that is like a great dark tidal wave, a rising river. The head of the snake is just lunging so high. And I know, it sort of feels like I'm floundering here, but I'm just really trying to unpack the concept of, is the river the bridge over that river? Or the Snoqualmie River, on the other hand, it is shallow like a snake, but it's also milky like a cradle. And it is so cold, like a gigantic, blunt metal drill that feels like it just cross-sects my body at multiple places, and then I have a different series of bodies inside it. And I guess that's just how I want to abstract the poem, in the way that the Snoqualmie River dissects the larger structure into many smaller pieces so that there's this space in between them to feel. Or is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous way? Here's a quotation from a pop anthropology book called Fire in the Head about Celtic mysticism. The author of this book, Tom Cowan, mentions regarding King Arthur that one of Arthur's original companions possesses a short dagger that becomes a bridge when laid across a ever-restricting strait. The dagger that becomes a bridge when laid, or is the river the blade? The author goes on to note that the bridge between this world and the other world is frequently described as being sharp, narrow, dangerous. The bridge between this world and the other world is frequently described as being sharp, narrow, dangerous
way? Or is the beauty the blade?
I interpret this all to mean that first, crossing a river takes you to the other world.
Over that river,
More specifically, there is a bridge across a river that takes you to the other world.
there's tortuous way.
Even more specifically, a dagger is a bridge across a river that takes you
Ever restricting straight. Is the river the bridge over that river? Or is the river the blade? Or is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous way? Or is the beauty the blade to the bridge, to the place, to that?
For Tom Cowan, the other world is basically just non-ordinary reality. To me, that means the mystical realm of all things living, dead, animate, inanimate, existing, or not existing, which is simultaneous with and superimposed over ordinary reality. So maybe one can access the otherworld plane by crossing a river. But what's on the other side of the river? What, in the words of Tom Cowan, is the geography of this otherworldly landscape? In which case, is this poem a map? Let's listen again, and if you want, I just no pressurely invite you to trace the otherworld's geography like a map in
To the bridge, to the place, to that ever restricting strait. Is the river the bridge over that river? Or is the river the blade? Or is the bridge the
Is the map of the otherworld delineated by rivers in
beauty the blade?
and the
Bridge, to the place, to that ever restricting.
Is it possible that the set of symbols that make up this poem are gesturing to a specific psychotopographical apparatus? As if the symbols of the poem correlate directly to a landscape of...
To the bridge, to the place, to that ever restricting.
If you want to think about this, what does it feel like to picture oneself located on this map of the otherworld? For me, it feels a little like floaty, while reminding me of Mackenzie Wark's description of existing within and without the body simultaneously. Within and without the body simultaneously. In fact, Tom Cowan asserts that in order to journey into the otherworld, one must dismember and reassemble themselves, which brings us again to the idea that a dagger laid across the river becomes the
Tortuous way. Or is the beauty the blade? To the bridge.
Is this journey to the otherworld dangerous as signaled by the dagger or blade and the inevitable dismembering and reassembling?
Is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous?
In Shelter from the Storm, Bob Dylan sings, "Beauty walks the razor's edge, someday I'll make it mine." Before we delve further into possible associations with the word blade, what's this connection between beauty and...
Tortuous way. Or is the beauty the blade? To the bridge, to the place,
And
ever restricting straight.
there seems to be a circular connection between beauty and blades, daggers, razors as they relate to this mystical passage. Can we walk on the razor's edge alongside beauty into the other world, or is it in fact that beauty is the razor's bridge too?
Or is the river the blade? Or is the bridge the blade across the river's tortuous?
What do we know about beauty?
Be the blade.
Elaine Scarry, in her book On Beauty, said something about how the sensation of beauty is really an impulse to protect something, to treat it with justice. I completely disagree. For me, unfortunately, beauty conjures a feeling of covetousness, this desire to consume and selfishly hoard. As in Bob Dylan's assertion, "Someday I will make it mine." But we actually know that beauty can't be hoarded and it can't be owned. In fact, we know beauty cuts like a...
Ever restricting straight.
if you get close, like being immersed in the beauty of the Snoqualmie River. It was so cold, like a gigantic blunt metal drill. Dull, thick planes of broad, wide ghost iron cross-sected my body at neck, skull, and waist until I had a different series
The
of...
blade. Or is the bridge the blade?
Or in Narragansett Bay at dusk, a plain cut through center of eyeballs became pleasant to look across the bay's soft night outlines through my now bisected 4 eyeballs.
Or the blade? Or is the bridge the blade?
Beauty dissects, disassembles, like Anne Bogart's necessary cruelty of decision, this violent act. Beauty is merciless in its precise dissection, and is this its very mode of revelation? As in Tom Cowan's journey to the other world, wherein one must dismember, reassemble.
Blade. To the bridge, to the plate.
If beauty is the map and also the blade, which also
The bridge over that river? Or is the river the blade?
Elaine Scarry on Pain, Not on Beauty, says that physical pain is not erasing the body. In fact, it erases the world. It makes the body all. It narrows the experience of being into simple, clarified bodyhood and makes a clear path. Pain makes a clear path.
To the bridge.
Makes a clear path.
King Street.
Makes a clear path.
River. Or,
What makes a clear path?
or is the bridge,
Perhaps when something has undergone a process of clarifying,
or is the beauty
refining,
to the bridge,
tapering,
to that ever
restricting.
the river, the bridge,
A clear path is tapered like the edge of a dagger, a blade, like the narrowing of the sea into a river,
tortuous way.
a conversation Sid and I had about aural dissonance when the distance between two tones tapers until a rhythmic pulsation emerges at an ever-increasing speed until the frequencies merge. So many different elements of sound are usually imperceptible like this, like overtones, previously imperceptible needles made suddenly perceptible at perfect measures of narrowness. The process of distilling so ruthlessly the deeper esoteric, pulsating or overtonic meaning.
Or is the beauty the blade?
Is this the sound of the other world, heard when following the map of the tapering passage through
River. Or is the river the blade?
the pulsating sound of tapering space
Across
and
the river's tortuous way.
the restricting river on the map of the...
To the bridge, to the place, to that ever restricting strait.
By this time, it seems that we've cycled through disassembling each of the primary symbols of the poem, and in the constellation of images generated through this process, it seems to me that each returns to the river. Maybe this is something I'm perpetuating unconsciously because I just want to return to rivers because rivers are so beautiful. They are universally beloved beings. In fact, actually, why don't you raise your hand if you love rivers? Yes, yes, that's like almost everyone in here. That's so true. Rivers are absolutely incredible. They're so beautiful. They're just like, they're amazing. And maybe that's kind of the whole point of this whole stupid thing anyways, this very confusing scenario that has been concocted here. Maybe the point is just, yes, actually scratch everything I've said, because I think the point of what I'm saying is simply just that I love the river. I love the river. I love you, river. It's like, oh, what do I feel? I don't know what I feel for the river. No, I love them. I'm in love with them. I want to be there. And I want to share that with you for
Maybe the
some,
bridge,
because maybe you
to
relate.
the place, to that
I'm scared of the nature of them.
is the river,
And I want to be there.
that river, to the
They're just so freaking.
bridge, or is the
And
bridge,
then I'm scared because it is.
the river's
Will
tortuous
this happen the last?
Or is the
Are they already
to the
in?
bridge, to
Will
the
the rivers go over?
way.
How would we find them if
The
they?
river, the bridge,
Maybe it's not even like.
bridge, the river's the river.
You know what? Maybe it's not
Or is the
even.
bridge, the blade, across the river's tortuous way.
Maybe it's not that straightforward.
To that ever
Because
restricting strait.
it seems like in the world of this
The river,
performance,
the
it's like
river,
the most
the
is the
river,
most.
the bridge,
It's just some
the
sort of
river,
like
the
big
river,
map
the river,
with this
the
like
tortuous
series
way.
of
Or is the bridge,
rivers
the bridge,
and bridges to the other world, which are blades
the
of
river is
beauty,
the
which
beauty
is
of
sharp.
the
So it cuts a path that seems to taper impossibly
the river, the bridge, the river,
a
the
sound.
river, or
This is the sound. This is the sound that I was thinking of because this is the sound that I heard when I went with my parents and their neighbor Agnes to this graveyard. And the graveyard held Agnes's mother and sister, and Agnes stood and she kissed the gravestones. And she cried as my mother took a picture of her beatifically and proudly resting her hand on her mother's gravestone. And then all around us, the graveyard chirped in this octal drone. It was like this low and high tone, sort of a dazed stupor of reverie, or it was the simple, quiet lucidity of rapture, like two strings suspended 8 parts away from one another, with these knife-like overtones thrumming at the consistent rate of a staring, seeing eyeball in perpetual cyclical breath. And it sounds like electricity, but it seems to be coming from a living throat, which is constricted into a razor